Our next guest is the starting safety for the Maryland Terrapins in his senior year, and he was a member of the Terps lacrosse team not too long ago. We are happy to have on Dante Trader Jr. this week. Dante, welcome to Under the Shell.
Appreciate you for having me.
Awesome. Well, let's get started with the past weekend. Big 50-7 win over UConn to start the season. Your Terps D forced 2 interceptions, held UConn scoreless until the end of the third quarter. Just kind of how are you feeling about that first game?
Obviously, looking at the first game, you get a little more critical and analytical. Obviously, the score, you would think that everybody would be so hyped, but that's just not us. We want to pick the film apart. That's what all of us did. The young guys, old guys, all of us sending clips back and forth. But it was really cool to see a lot of young guys get in on defense and offense and special teams. Like you got Josiah. You got Dewan, you got a lot of guys, 3 quarterbacks playing, a lot of young guys be able to get in the box and play to develop. So it's kind of cool to see them. And games like this where, you go up early and keep them under a certain amount of points, a lot of guys get to go in. But obviously looking towards, analytical side is just have to hone in on communication on both sides of the ball and just clean up some things going into Michigan State.
Yeah, I wanted to ask for you, as a secondary player, Glendon started a little bit last year, but you're kind of one of the only returning starters. I mean, Perry and Jalen stepped in. How have you guys kind of, as a secondary, because it's been a unit over the past year, 2 years now that's really excelled for Maryland. How did you guys make sure the standard was held this year? Was it a lot of kind of you leading the way to try to uphold that standard? And especially with the transfer like Jalen coming in, how did you make sure that they understood what needed to be done to kind of keep the level that you guys have been playing at?
Yeah, most definitely. I have to lead the way in those things, that, and it's kind of like a Q&A with these guys. It's like, how does this work and how does this, and then teach them how to watch film and teach them how to practice the right way and keeping the standard while all being, one of the boys and holding them up to help make sure the confidence is there and they're just on and off the field, just monitoring all of that. I would say, but. It's just gaining that brotherhood over the summer and over the winter workouts, all the things like that before we even had ball. So it's just learning who Jalen Husky is, learning who Perry Fisher is, Lionel Whitaker, Kerm and B. Lee, all these young guys, just learning how to mesh with them because every DBU room is different. It's not the same as having Jacorian Bennett, Deontay Banks, Bo Braid, Tarheeb Still. Like all those guys, we're all different. Every year you have a different team and different unit. So you got to learn what makes people click. And that was the biggest thing making it figure out is, how do they click? So then how I'll be able to hold them to that standard we have set.
When you say like figuring out how it made them click, like how did you do that? Was that like secondary dinners? Did you guys do anything fun? Like how are you guys kind of bonding? Because I'm sure as a non-football player, I would guess the secondary, it's a lot of communication, defense especially. So getting to know them personally is important. How did you do that this off season?
You got to go the extra mile, like you said, go meet with them. Like I like to text all my guys after the games, after stuff on weekends to see what they're up to. Just have conversations outside of, ball, outside of the weight room. So learning what they like, learning what they like to talk about, learning what makes them mad, learning what keeps them happy. Just learning how you can talk to people. That goes on off the field. And then I would say on the field, learning what makes them click is, okay, what motivates them? For me, I would say, when I was raised with my father, like there wasn't many like good jobs, this and the third. It's more like that tough love, and that's how I respond. You get on me, I'll be able to respond. But some people you can't do that. You gotta go, show them some love and tell them they're good. You know what I'm saying, like that. So just figuring out who they are, what makes them click, or they got figuring out their why. You ask most people, they say they want to go to the NFL or their parents, their little brothers. Like okay, bro, like you said you want to go here. Every time you're not on that path of staring, I'm gonna tell you and call you out, stuff like that. So you have to do things like that, and it's just like, everybody knows for me is my parents and my little brother. So, when people need to call me and get me back aligned, they would say some things like that. It's like, look, bro, you gotta make it for your family, you gotta make it for your little brother because he's watching you, things like that.
You mentioned how some players' why is to go to the NFL. You also mentioned one of your close friends, Bo Braid. What's it been like, having him down the road playing for the Ravens and kind of watching him get to the NFL? What's that been like from your perspective?
I would say it's very motivating and it's very, it shows you how close I am. Because playing with that guy, I learned a lot from him. And just seeing how close I am because, I played with him and learned from him. I still call him, still text him about stuff. We check in here and there. Still the same dude. It's my boy. But it's very motivating. It was crazy to see because we went down to the Ravens, see him play, see him in that jersey. It was like bittersweet. It was like finally I could step back outside of like a in that warrior mindset we were always in Maryland. It's like, bro, I can go see my brother play and relax a little bit and just give him the flowers where it's due.
What about Bo has allowed him to have the success that he has as an undrafted free agent to make the Ravens? Kind of what allowed him to kind of make that team? What about him,
Put it in 2 words, one speed, man. Like everything that guy does is 100 miles per hour. If it's watching film, if it's trying to hit somebody, if it's running the ball, like he's embodied that mindset and mentality. Like I'm gonna give it my all and I'm gonna take people out, and that's basically what he did. Like what coaches love is the grit and tenacity. That is the byproduct of being one speed. You know what I'm saying? So when you go out there on special teams, defense, and show that every time somebody gets a ball, every time you're covering, you're there all the time. Like every time you roll the clip, he's in the frame. Like when you have a safety in the frame on every play, it's kind of like this guy doesn't go away. So when you become that type of a pest, that allows GMs and coaches like, yo, we gotta let this kid has a roster. So I would say that's a testament of who he is and the mindset he embodies.
I was just gonna say, nice plug there with the one speed podcast. I like it.
what's the status with the podcast now that Bo's in the league? Are you guys going to continue it this fall?
Yeah, we're gonna try it here and there. People, well, as you know, it's kind of hard. It takes a lot of effort that a lot of people don't realize. So, I give the flowers to y'all boys for being able to do things like this because it's not easy. People think it's easy, you just get on a video, but you have planning and hours and connecting with sponsors and time because y'all have 3 different schedules. There's 3 different people on here, so you have to align. So it's kind of hard. You have to sacrifice little things and people don't realize that. So, it became draining. Trying to focus on the off season and summer and the season, and Bo has the NFL this season trying to make the roster. So we kind of like paused it, but we're going to try to get out a couple of videos this fall. It'll probably just be me. We may be able to get a video out after this Michigan State game. So, be on the watch for that. But yeah, we're just going to be slower, less content and just be able to focus on ball.
When you talk about Bo, I mean, who do you think on this year's team is going to go up there in the NFL draft once they leave? You guys got some candidates. Who are you kind of looking at, and who should Terps fans be expecting to be selected pretty high in 2025?
Well, everybody knows now Glendon Miller. He's an elite athlete, elite talent, elite kid. He's a great kid. My best friend, we call him Yin Yang. That's what that's what he says. But Glendon Miller, I'm putting all my eggs in Glendon Miller's basket. Anything that he doesn't do or needs, I'm gonna put it into his basket to help him get to where he needs to, and he would do the same. So that's the only name I'm saying because that's my boy. There's obviously a lot of guys out there on the team, but my biggest one, I would just say, just to have one, is Glendon Miller.
Yeah, Loxley and him both talked about how, like, I think Loxley said that he's like the kid that you're always having to watch out for, and you're like, ugh, why can't they get it? And then he finally got it. And Glendon said like he wished it had came earlier, like he never realized his potential. Why do you think that this was like the year, and even in a little bit into last year, that it finally like snapped for him? Do you remember like early Glendon or like, and then kind of the change into who he is now? Talk me through that maybe transformation from someone who, you guys are good friends, it seems like.
I always say it's a product of your environment and who you surround yourself with and what you have went through. So me growing up, say it for me, I got to see a lot of people around me not make it because of certain things they did, or my parents or my siblings. I got to follow certain things they didn't like. They did, and I'm like, okay, what not to do that to be able to do things. So I was like, when I came in, I was already on straight and trying to figure out who I'm going to hang around with, how I'm going to get on the field with film and X, Y, Z. Like I moved myself like I didn't have time. So we're going to Glenn, I would say a lot of people get trapped in having time. So when you get into that senior year and your last year, you see the end of the tunnel, you see the light, and you're a little more mature. So I would say Glenn probably just went through some things that realized, okay, I got to lock in and I'm this good. And this, when it all clicks, Glendon Miller is the best player in the field. Let's just say that right there. And that's not even a stretch, but it's like, I would just say, like, again, for any player, any college athlete that figures it out late, it's when you get older. Because y'all know, like, anything your mom said when you're in the house, you're like, oh, like, it is what it is. But once you get older and realize they were right, you start to fix and act accordingly, right? So it's kind of the same thing. I would just say is, Glenn just got older and wiser, went through more things. The more things you do, you can self-correct.
You talked about like how when you got to Maryland, you were kind of more locked in and trying to move that process along quicker. Did any of that have to do with the fact that you knew you wanted to play two sports at Maryland and that maybe you'd actually have less time with the football team?
No. Wherever sport I was at, I've tried to focus on that. I really didn't look far away because I'm a stressor. I'm a natural stressor. So when I put more things in my head and more things on my table, I was like, oh, bro, like I go off the rails. But it was more the fact that like, I had some people in my corner that, helped me, and I didn't know what I was doing. Let's just cut it. Let's just be honest. Like I was doing everything by fire and it worked. Like trial by fire and it worked. I was like, all right, like if I don't know the playbook, I'm gonna go watch a lot of film. If I'm not strong, which I wasn't, I was 175 pounds, I'm gonna lift. If I'm not this, I'm gonna do that. Like there's no secret sauce. So it's just like I want to get on the field. How you gonna get on the field? Find your role, find your value, which mine was special teams and my instincts and stuff like that. So I had to play a part. So I was meeting with our GA Quincy, who I will credit to my career at the end of college. He gets the most credit because there's a lot of time spent with that guy. When I first came in, we kind of came together, but he helped me with the playbook and everything like that.
Dante, take me through a day in the life in the summer. So you got kind of football. You guys are in both your off seasons, but we know, we've heard from college athletes, an off season isn't really an off season. Like you got plenty of stuff to do. Take me through hour by hour. What are you doing in like an August or a July day when you have football and lacrosse kind of going on?
So in summer is no really lacrosse. When I was like like I said, like whatever sport I was closest to, I really didn't cross because I just stayed focused on one. But I would say for the summer, day by day, let me think. There's a lot of early wake ups, probably like 6:30 wake up. I would read a book or pray, things like that. Go over to the facility by 7, probably had a workout, our lift schedules, get a little treatment in, rehab. That's probably like an hour, 2 hours. Then I'll get extra film for like an hour. Do extra, like some days I would get extra footwork, speed work, things like that. Then we have like a 3 p.m. Like player and practices that were an hour and a half. So we got those. And after that, I was doing more, more after like extra stuff. So like footwork and DB drills and catching. Then I would go home, do obviously summer classes. We have to take summer classes here, but, the summers is always going and you only get the time on the back end. So the guys that come in early, you're able to have more freedom after your long days. But when I was doing a little cross training in the spring, those days were crazy if you want me to speak on that. So when I was in like lacrosse mode and they were in spring ball, I was hopping back and forth. So I was lifting with football at like 6 a.m., rehabbing over there, getting treatment, doing my extra film and meeting with the young players that were having practice in spring ball. Then I would go over to lacrosse after I had my classes, obviously, meet extra early so I could catch up to everybody else. Then practice at 3, get home about like 6 or 7, and then trying to figure out how to do homework and doing it all over again. And then like some days I would hop over to football practice and watch them and help the youngins over there. But it was a lot of crossing and mix and match. And then when I was trying to play 2 sports, I would say.
So you didn't even do spring practice?
Oh, no, it wasn't. No.
That's wild, man. I couldn't even imagine you had to do spring practice and lacrosse games. Like
it was hard, but like we had to meet with the strength staff to how I would stay strong. And so I wouldn't miss a beat when I would come back for football. So it was a lot of lifting and meeting and nutrition. It was a lot.
You mentioned the cross training. Kind of what's the skill crossover between football and lacrosse? Do you think that more athletes could do that jump where they play both sports?
I feel like you could do it, but you'd be crazy to do it. Let me be honest with you. You'd be very crazy to do it. But there's a lot of translation to the movements and a lot of change of direction helps you with football and lacrosse, I would say. And then the biggest turnover for me from football to lacrosse was the toughness part of it. Like every given day, like if I seen a bigger dude or like nobody was just going to out tough me. And it went a long way for me in terms of covering guys and going and playing with some guys on the lacrosse field. But lacrosse and football, I would definitely say the mental part because lacrosse is very like mental, like very, very, very mental, like shooting and playing on guys and catching the ball. Like it's very mental. So if you're not in it, you're gonna look horrible, no matter how good you are. Football, there's other guys around. There's like the quarterback has the ball, and you're playing defense with a lot of different guys, so it's different. So I would just say that the biggest turnover was the mental part.
You said it was crazy. Then why do you do it? Like, what is the why for why you play these two?
So coming in, it went back to when I first got like recruited here. It was ninth grade year. I had a little fall ball tournament here. My first ever time playing in like a big stadium. I forget how old I was, but it was ninth grade year, beginning of the ninth grade year. Played in front of Coach Tillman and his staff. Played pretty well. Got in contact with them. That's when they could talk to you. Had like an unofficial visit, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm coming here." And then once I transferred to McDonough, and I was playing football, I was already committed for lacrosse, and then I was like, I didn't know how good I was at football, so I got offers. So I got a couple offers. And I was like, I can't let go of lacrosse, but there's a future in football. So I was like, all right, I think I'm gonna play both. And you don't realize how hard it is until you realize the load you take from lifting and practicing that football in the seasons. Like you think they don't connect, but they run into each other. So like going from football, you go from spring to summer, you get a month off. Summer to fall camp, you get like a couple days off, and like each July and June. Then you go your 6 months, go to the bowl game in December. Then lacrosse starts up January 4th. So when I did that, it was a long year of straight sport with no break. I got 4 days off from the Charlotte Bowl game till the lacrosse season I played. So yeah, you got to be a little crazy to play because people don't think they mix, but the off season's the line, and it's like you never get to stop. You're always going, and it was more mental than physical. People would think it's more physical, but it's mental. Like I was going crazy, like I was. I'm gonna be honest. Like I was like, I gotta do this again and again and again. But like I signed up for it. Like it was the most fun thing I did, but it was mentally taxing, I would say.
So take me back kind of before even you got to McDonough. Were you playing football and lacrosse before then?
Yeah, I was playing football and lacrosse in Delaware at my school at Delmar. Um, but I was playing more. So all my summertime was dedicated towards lacrosse, like travel. You know how all that is. So I wasn't doing the football camps, the Nike openings, all that stuff, traveling, seeing schools. I wasn't doing that. I was all lacrosse tournaments, and going to those showcases and things like that. But so it was more like a 60-40 split of the amount of effort because I didn't think I was going to play Division I football until I got to McDonough.
So now I guess over the past whatever 6 or 7 years, would you say that's flipped, right? You're way more kind of locked in on football. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's very much correct. There's more of a future in football, and the resources and the people that have allowed me to play at the level I did has given me a chance and opportunity to go to the league, have a shot at the league. So yeah, there's obviously a flip of that 60-40 now. It's more
So
of 100% now because I'm done. But
yeah. So really, it had to do with the future opportunities and going to the NFL. Is that what you'd say?
yeah, and then it's just the body load, like people that can play two sports at that high of a level for that long. I pray for them because what I went through, and I tell the kids that want to do it, I said, you got to be mentally prepared for that and physically. Like again, I play safety, and you guys know how I play safety. Like I come down reckless abandonment. You're gonna beat up your body. You're doing that for 8 months. Then you go play a 4 or 5 month season in lacrosse, and at Maryland they go to championship weekend. So the championship weekend runs into summer training of football. So you have no time off. So imagine I need a break, but you got a game to play for that Saturday because you just came out from football season to lacrosse. So like, you know what I'm saying? So doing that another year, already into the longest year of my life, if I'm trying to go to the league. So yeah, that was a decision I had to make.
So once your playing career ends, I guess this is kind of a two-parter. One, would you be interested in coaching? And then two, would that be football, or would you kind of want to get back into lacrosse a little bit?
I feel like lacrosse always will have my heart. So lacrosse would be the easiest to coach, but it wouldn't be at like the crazy levels at first. It'd probably be like the travel or whatever if I would even like consider it. Coach is not in my plans right now, but that would be the easiest thing. because I would say I have a skill set of, the knowledge of the game, and I can have the patience to coach kids. But again, it's once you grew up, my dad was a coach, and being around coaches, I see what happens to them, and like people don't give them enough credit for the amount of hours they have to go and without their families and things like that. Like, I'm not trying to chase nobody around right now. So like as of right now, coaching would be like the last resort. But like if I call up one of my old coaches, like, can I have a little job so get me started in the coaching tree? But right now, yeah, no.
Dante, what would you say for I think you're uniquely situated to talk about this. Why do you think historically and even today that Maryland lacrosse, has such a, I guess, historical and current leg up on the caliber of program than Maryland football? Like, why do you think there's a difference between the two, I guess, in terms of on-field success?
That's a tough question. Let me think how I would answer that. You had that one highlighted. I know you did. You picked that one. Uh, I would just say there's a lot more to figure out. I would say the biggest thing you got to realize with uh football and lacrosse is the amount of players on each team is, what I'm saying, is a big thing. And the type of kids and the culture, all that builds into everything like that. Like Maryland had a culture of winning games in the ACC and all that, things like that. But Maryland, since Maryland was in the Big Ten for lacrosse, they've always ran it. So like you would have, like I even have to think about historically why there's a difference in the winning. And I wish they were aligned, but we're going to do that this year. But like, what I'm saying, I don't know how to answer that question. Truth, honest with you.
No, that's cool. I was interested kind of.
You might stump everybody with that question.
Well, not many people play lacrosse and football though, Dante, to be fair.
Yeah.
But I think part of it, I wonder is the historical success, but also just like the area too. I mean, I'm not from here. I never played lacrosse. So, but from what my understanding is, the talent in Maryland for lacrosse is very high. Do you play with guys, and do you kind of ever talk with guys who are like lifelong players of lacrosse, like yourself, and kind of just realize how much of a hotbed the DMV is for that sport? And, like, what is your kind of experience with the high school and recruiting scene in that area?
Yeah, Maryland is definitely a hotbed. You got Maryland, New York, obviously, and Jersey. All those, that is the hotbed. The Eastern Shore has really been the hotbed of lacrosse. Obviously, I played in one of the best conferences in the country, the MIAA. When I was in Delaware, the competition wasn't that good of high schools and things like that. So you got to see, with me being on my Mad Lax travel team, I would go up to play against kids that were at these type of schools, like the McDonald's, the Boys Latin, the St. Paul's, the Gilmans, and then going against Chaminade and St. Anthony's, those New York schools over there, and even the Connecticut schools. You get to see, like, those kids go to these private schools just to play lacrosse. Like they pushing a lot of money over there. They got a lot of good resources and a lot of teams over there to help them play elite lacrosse. Like growing up, there wasn't many teams that would develop the kids. I would say like I seen over the bridge. When I went over that bridge, it was like the biggest. I was like, whoa! Like you got 5, 7, 8 year olds doing behind the backs and tricks and stuff like that. I couldn't even catch and throw when I was that type of age. You know what I'm saying? So like the resources and the knowing of the sport in those areas was what drives those areas. So Maryland had that leg up because Maryland is the Bama of lacrosse, you would say. Especially they've always had that title. So of course, getting those Maryland kids around this area and the Eastern Shore kids obviously has fueled that success you've seen historically.
I think you might have just answered the last question a little bit there with that type of answer.
I've got one more lacrosse related question though. What is I guess, can you compare Coach Loxley and Coach Tillman? Like, what are those two similar in regards as coaches? How are they different in regards as coaches?
I would say similarly, they want to win. They do everything to win. Those are winners, proven winners. Everything is calculated to win. You know what I'm saying? Like everything from what resources they bring around the program, the speakers, the people they have on staff, the kids they bring in, where they show face, the people they speak to, the leaders they have associated with them, the coaches they bring on staff. So it's like everything they have geared toward is trying to win. And they get personal relationship with their players to allow them to lead without having to be so honed in. Like if you could see, just seeing what my dad went through just to coach, imagine that as a head coach. So Lord knows what Coach Tillman and Coach Locks go through to be able to, they had to do everything and coach everything and police everything. They'll be so drained. So they have to invest in which they do. They invest into 10, 15 leaders, 5 coaches to make it go down a tree, that hierarchy, you know what I'm saying? So they have their foot soldiers that do the work to allow the program to rise. And that's why you see the upcoming success of our football program and we're building, and then the established success that Coach Tillman will have.
To take it to kind of your lacrosse career for 1 second, right? You didn't play at Maryland in 2022, and you said that you actually wouldn't even go to the stadium to watch all the games. You watched them all on TV. You played in 2023, and in 2024, you weren't playing, but you would go to the games, and you were a big supporter of the team, and you were kind of constantly there. What kind of changed? Was it just the fact that you were done with lacrosse at that point?
Yeah, I would say that. Going to the games, the year I didn't play, going to the games would have killed me. I was just like, bro, like, because like I physically couldn't play. So like I was hurt. So like it drove me crazy. I couldn't play because I said it was my goal to play. And then I was dealing with the external. I was like, bro, it's hard to play 2 sports anyway. Like you're good. Just shut it down. Like there's no way you're going to do that. Like I was like, all right, watch. So like slowly it was like an internal desperation. I'm like, bro, I'm going to play. Like, and that was one of the motivators me playing. People were like, I couldn't do it. Don't tell Trader I can't do anything. Like don't do that, because that's how I've been fueled all my life, coming from a small town, and I have it work for everything. Like so, like once I played and learned all my guys, like I felt like a part of that team. I felt like I've done something to impact, you know, not even just the wins, like just my brothers on that team, the coaches, and they impacted me, and then I impacted them. So just having a positive impact on others, which is one of the principles of leadership, and things like that. And I kind of brought that back to the football team. But coming into the 24, once I made peace with it, it's like, that scar that healed, that wound that healed. Like I closed that chapter of my life, and I said I was going to do it, and I did it plus some. I called Coach Tillman at the end because I was going to come back. If people didn't know that, I was going to come back when they went up to Penn State to play the Nittany Lions. But I was like, something in my heart. I was prayed on it, slept on it. I was like, just shut it down. So I called Coach Tillman to thank him for everything and allow me his support, and allowed me to be on his team when he didn't have to. So once I made peace with it, every game I would text my guys, my D-mid guys, my defensive members, like turn up. I was at every game, went to the national championship, front row center, get them boys some energy. But, once I made peace, I was able to show up to the game.
Now we got to go to the gridiron here for this season. You guys, in your career, obviously haven't been able to break through with that big win, the win that I think Maryland fans are constantly talking about. On defense specifically, what do you think you guys have to do better in those games in order to kind of pull through in one of them?
Like, it's simple. It's really simple. When we watch the tape, it's really simple. Like, as much as people think it's like, oh, Maryland's playing this big Goliath, this big giant, and it's really not like that. Like, we're really talented. When we beat ourselves and when we don't do our job, that's when the teams that are used to consistently winning those big games and have been there before, like those blue collar teams, like the Michigan Ohio States that we let get away, they know how to, come back and be resilient and do their jobs in the end. Like, we just got to finish, do our job, stay in your gap, look at my reads, communicate. When all 11 of us are doing our jobs, like we can compete with anybody. So I would just say do your job. And that's the only principle. You don't do more than your job. Because when you do more than your job, things go left.
Why do you think that in those games, like that mantra hasn't like necessarily landed in those spots? Like, why do you think guys are trying to do too much? Like, why do you think that kind of that's not happening, I guess, per se?
It takes work. It takes effort. It takes those scars. You know what I'm saying? Michigan and Ohio State weren't always Michigan and Ohio State. Bama wasn't always Bama. They had to go through some things to be able to get to those things. They got over the hump. Everything's timing. Like, Maryland's timing is not Ohio State's, Penn State's, and Michigan's timing. So our timing is a little different. So figuring out why in those moments are we coming up short is what we've been figuring out for years and getting better and better and better. But I think it comes down to discipline and again, just doing your job. When you're disciplined in those moments, when the heat of the moment, when there's pressure calls behind your name, um, you can do your integrity of your job. There should be a better results. But we're not going to stress about the past. Like every year we're going to keep continuing to look at those situations to keep getting better. We're moving the ball in terms of that, so we're just going to keep showing that we can keep winning those, be in those games, and try to win.
Are there any games, any opponents you're looking forward to kind of have circled on your calendar for this season?
The next game every week. That's really like the next game. Winning is hard. People don't like when people are like, "Oh, they should have blew this team out by more." Like you look on like certain fan bases, like certain teams. It's like when Oregon played Idaho or somebody played this team. It's like, oh, they should have beat them. Like you got to understand, winning is not easy. It doesn't matter if you have a history of winning. People get people's best. Those first 4 weeks when they're playing out of conference games or FCS teams, like those are great players too. So, I would just say that, like, but yeah, that's, I don't want to go too much into that, but
You guys have not one of those FCS opponents. I mean, next week, Michigan State coming to town. So, Dante, we're super excited to watch you the rest of the year. Can't wait to see how you and the defensive unit does. And we really appreciate you coming on, man. Thanks so much.